All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody. So let's finish doing this recap and we should continue right away. And so where we were in the last 10 days, we spoke about how the neocortex brain is the brain that's in charge of doing this work, right? Because the red brain is the brain that can actually provide for the quality of life. And that granularity our brain is seeking to understand, right? But we do know that it always, in order to make new emotions, according to Dr. Lisa Barrett, it always goes into the past, right? And so by going to the past for previous sensory input, it can only supply understanding from what was already experienced in the past. And so we're going to try to use old tools for this brand new epidemic. You know, the unemployment numbers just came in today for last week. The previous high of unemployment requests, I think it was about 700,000, and that was in the 1980s. 700,000 people claiming unemployment, that was the record. Do you want to know what it was for last week? 3.3 million people. It's the highest request of unemployment that's ever been. So now that we're covering why it is because that existential, that threat, we're just trying to eliminate what that looks like. And now with the rapid speed of change, we don't know what else is coming. We have to start looking at what tools we've used in the past to help us get through emotional sensory overload. So think to yourself, what tools have you ever had to use in order to get you through an emotional sensory input, displacement? We've never been in this situation before. Never. The unemployment numbers tell us this is, we're in new territory. That means we have to rediscover life. That means us as emotional scientists, me and you, all of you will now become emotional scientists in your own life, and we'll begin figuring it out, and we'll begin to develop the tools that I'm sharing with you, and I'm going to give everything to everyone, so we're going to do this together. So send me your emails, write me a message directly through Creative Emotional Intelligence. We're going to get everybody everything that they need, and we're going to walk through this together for the next 30, 60, 180 days, however many days it takes. We're going to do this together. I'm going to do this every day because as a Marine, I take integrity very seriously, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to do this together. So, if you think about the tools that we have never had to use, we've never had to have been taught emotional intelligence before. We've never dealt with so much stress, which is the equivalence of emotional overwhelm. And so emotional intelligence, let's break that down, because many of us don't even know what it is. Okay, so I see it now. So just summarize that. Emotional intelligence is us solving our own emotional intelligence deficiency problems. That's it. So I'm explaining it to you so that now you can say, oh, now I understand why I need emotional intelligence, because we have to change on the inside as quickly as change is coming on the outside, so we can make the brain feel safe. We can make the reptilian and mammalian brain feel safe, and we can give them all this little information that they're looking for, because they feel it, but if they can't name it, then they can't tame it. And the brain is looking for stability. It wants to feel safe. It wants to know what's happening. It wants to know it. It wants to evaluate the threats. But it can't do that. And so we're full of all of these unresolved situations, right? And so this is our brain right now telling us the story of what we now need to do for it, right? Because it can only be what we have trained it to be. Does that make sense? And Albert Einstein says, learning is the training of the mind to think. And so we have to learn. We have to train our brain, and that's why we're doing this together. So to this point, as we continue to recap, we know that the mammalian brain, the blue brain, since we just spoke about the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain is the one that has to go back into the future, go back into the past. And it only has these guys to pick from. And most of us, if I were to ask you, what are the last 5 feelings you felt? That might even take a while. Do you recognize how slow the processing is? And all the information coming in? And how all the information needs to be organized? Emotionally first. Because when we can organize it emotionally, okay, this comes in, boom, we become like a supercomputer. Boom, boom, boom. This is panic, this is fear, this is disgust, this is disapproval, this is judgment, this is loathing, this is da-da-da. And the brain is functioning. Because now the brain is like Neo in the Matrix, and you're like, tick, 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 putting everything in order. And we're going to develop that skill for you. We're going to do it together. We can't do it for you, but we're going to help you do it. So, 9:36, I got 4 minutes left. So, our brain is trying to understand itself currently, but it's unable to do that, and so we're beginning to feel what this look feels like, right? For me, a lot of these signals that are coming in, which most of us can't identify, for me, they feel like boredom, feels like irritable, feels like isolation, feels like confused, feels like fearful, concerned, worried, anxious, displaced, fatigued, bored, depressed, lonely, alienated. All of these feelings have their own place. And if your brain can't understand where they actually belong so that it can feel safe, you're not going to feel safe until it knows what it needs to know. It needs that new information. And so with insight, we get clarity. And with clarity, we get understanding, which understanding is at the level of the heart. And with understanding comes peace. Peace within, peace without. And we all need to provide this peace for our families, right? And so now we need to practice identifying what is it that we're going through, labeling it, putting it, organizing it. Just like we organize everything on the outside, now we got to organize our feelings on the inside. And there's a lot of them that are unresolved. So now we have to take a proactive approach. And this means paying attention. We have to pay more attention because as we experience giving the brain these proper signals consciously, we can't just let ourselves continue to feel unconsciously, right? And so what does this mean? Is that emotional intelligence is not something we don't want to do. It's not something we need to do. Because our brain has now told us a story for what it's actually looking for us to do. And this is not according to me, this is actually according to Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, who is a world-renowned scientist, the latest and greatest in emotional intelligence and brain neuroscience development. Her and her beautiful staff, I speak with them and they're so collaborative, they're so beautiful. So anything I learn is coming from the best people. So I always want to bring you the best and top, rated information with the conversations that have taken place so that discernment and understanding can be transmitted to you and I can explain it in a simple way. So I'm here for that. So now emotional intelligence gives us that emotional agility where we're able to flow, and it gives us the flexibility so we can bend it instead of breaking. If we change on the inside, then we don't break, right? Because change is constant. So if we're not constantly changing, we're going to be constantly breaking. If you understand that so far? So, let's see. So, again, it's about safety. That's what it wants, and we need to provide that for it. And these old tools that we have, they're just no good. And now we need to cope with the rapid speed of change. And I think this is a very traumatic situation for all of us. None of us are going to walk out the same. So if we don't start practicing this now, the feelings are just going to pile up, right? Remember, like the energy from yesterday that I showed you, it's just going to continue to, pile up because this information is going to come, and we don't know what the rate of change is going to be, and we can only assume that it's going to increase. So I think that's kind of where we are. In addition to that, we also need to know that basically feelings or emotions are mental predictions. So we need to give our mind the tools it needs to make better emotional predictions so that it can pick from new places, and those new places can have new meaning, and that new meaning we can actually really distribute in a way where it's effective and positive and creative for us as in our family. We can feel safe about that. And so I think that brings us up to date. So thank you for joining us. I hope it's been insightful. Tomorrow I think we're going to begin now talking about how is it that we can continue to develop this for ourselves. How is it that we can continue to examine all the different places, right? In sadness you have feelings like boredom. In sadness you have feelings like indifferent, right? In sadness you have feelings like apathy, where you're literally you're so empty, you don't even know that you're sad. But the healthy route is sadness, because that's actually where the fundamental experience for the reptilian brain, it needs to know that it's sad, so that at least by understanding it says, oh, I understand, I can be at peace. It's when the mind doesn't understand that it creates the opposite. In disgust, yesterday I said hesitation, but no, hesitation is in disgust. And that's usually because of judgment. Judgmental is in disgust. We also have disapproval. So if you're disapproving of how things are, maybe the present of this, that, or the other, I want you to know that that kind of disapproval and that judgment and even that loathing. So if you're loathing, if you're moping, if it's like really starting to drain you, you're feeling drained because your brain doesn't know that it's loathing. And these are not words that we need to know, but this is an exercise that we need to transfer energy to see the big picture of what we're going through. And every, let's say maybe 2 times a week, we'll sit down together and we'll organize our feelings. We'll sit down together, we'll take all the emotional overwhelm, all the constant change, all of the differences, all of the calamity, and we'll sit down with our brain and we'll help our brain figure out the way. So, thank you guys for watching. I believe we're at the 10-minute mark. And so, if you have any questions, please write to us. We're here for you. We're here to support you, for you and your families, teachers, parents, leaders, anyone that is feeling something that they don't understand and need to understand why everything comes from the brain anyway. So if we can help it, then it will help us get where we need to get, right? And that's that's peace, that's safety, that's love and belonging, that's protection. That's also making us feel that we're important enough to do this. So I hope you give yourself consent to say, I approve. Now I know what I need to learn. Now I know what I need to practice, because like I said, there are no masters in emotional intelligence. Only people with a daily practice or a weekly practice, a practice that says I'm going to address my internal emotions and my brain on a week-to-week basis, consistently, because we don't know what's going to change, is going to happen, but we need to be ready for it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, day 12. We'll begin breaking down the difference between feelings and emotions, which I think that's kind of where we were for class number 9. But we needed to do this recap so that in day 12 we can begin and we can launch forward. We do a few more of these classes, and I think we'll have enough of a group, because we're getting a lot of people with interest, so we can get this going and we can grow this community together. All of us supporting each other. Everybody, all the parents and their families leading their families in the tribe of creative emotional intelligence, so that we can turn our children into creative beings that will reflect their creator, using their internal emotional energy in a creative, fun, healthy, and positive way. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow, 9:30.